Campbell's chunky classic chicken noodle soup is one of those foods that seems harmless at first glance. It's marketed as warm, hearty, comforting, something you can trust when you're sick or too busy to cook. The label says, made with hearty white meat, chicken and vegetables. And the commercials show steaming bowls that look like homemade goodness. But the truth hidden behind that shiny can is far less comforting. What most people don't realize is that this soup is a sodium bomb disguised as a health-friendly meal. One serving. And remember, there are 2 in a can, contains nearly 900 milligrams of sodium. That means if you finish the whole can, you're consuming almost 100 milligrams in one sitting, which is close to the daily limit recommended by the American Heart Association. For anyone dealing with high blood pressure, heart disease, or kidney issues, that's a recipe for trouble. Excess sodium causes your body to retain water, putting extra pressure on your blood vessels and making your heart work harder than it should. Over time, this leads to chronic fatigue, swelling, long-term cardiovascular strain even if you think you're eating something light. And sodium isn't the only problem. The chicken used in this soup is often not what most people imagine. It's not freshly cooked, juicy meat. It's highly processed chicken rehydrated in broth and packed with modified food starch to improve texture. It gives the illusion of chunkiness, but nutritionally it's barely better than filler. Then there are the preservatives, ingredients like monosodium glutamate, MSG and sodium phosphate, which enhance flavor and shelf life but can trigger headaches, digestive issues, and water retention in sensitive individuals. Broth that gives it flavor isn't slow cooked or homemade either. It's a chemical blend of flavor enhancers designed to mimic the taste of real chicken soup while keeping production costs low and the shelf life long. You might also notice the soup's unnaturally thick texture that comes from thickeners like modified starches, gar gum, and soy protein isolates, which make the soup feel rich without adding real nutrients. What's even more concerning is how deceptive food marketing can be. The word chunky gives the impression of wholesomeness and substance, but when you look closer, the chunks are mostly potatoes and carrots, with only small bits of chicken floating in a thick, salty broth. Many people choose this soup thinking it's a good source of protein or something they can eat guilt-free on a cold day. In reality, each can packs over 350 calories and very little actual nutrition. You'll find barely any fiber, very little vitamin content, and protein that's overshadowed by the amount of sodium and additives. It's a meal that fills you temporarily but leaves your body craving more because it's not truly nourishing. Another hidden danger is how easily foods like this can become a habit. Because they're cheap, convenient, and taste good, people start relying on them daily, especially busy workers, students, or seniors living alone. The repetitive consumption of high-sodium, processed soups can quietly lead to long-term damage. You won't feel it right away, but the impact builds up over years. A little higher blood pressure, a little more swelling in your hands or feet, occasional dizziness or fatigue. These are the subtle signs that your body is struggling to balance the constant salt overload. The artificial flavorings and MSG also overstimulate your taste buds, making you crave salty and processed foods even more. It's a feedback loop that keeps you hooked on the very foods that harm you. The irony is that chicken noodle soup is supposed to be healing. The kind of meal your grandmother made when you were sick. It should soothe you, strengthen your immune system, and give you warmth and nourishment. But the canned version has become a hollow imitation of that tradition. It's no longer food made with care, it's food engineered for shelf stability and profit. That's why it's so important to understand what's really inside the label. What you think is a bowl of comfort might actually be contributing to the very health issues you're trying to avoid. Tomato soup has always been seen as one of the simplest, most wholesome comfort foods, something people associate with childhood, rainy days, a sense of warmth and purity. The bright red color, the tangy flavor, the familiar aroma of tomatoes simmering in a pot give it the image of being healthy and innocent. But when it comes to canned versions like Progresso's traditional tomato soup, that wholesome image starts to fall apart the moment you read the label. On the surface, it looks like a smart choice: tomatoes, water, maybe a few herbs and spices. But dig deeper, and you'll find a blend of added sugars, preservatives, artificial ingredients that turn what should be a nourishing meal into a disguised sugar bomb. A single serving of this soup contains nearly 10 grams of added sugar, and there are usually 2 servings in a can. That's roughly equivalent to eating 2 teaspoons of sugar in what's supposed to be a savory dish. Many people eat the entire can in one sitting, unknowingly consuming 20 grams of sugar, which is about the same as a small candy bar. The reason for all that sugar is simple. It's used to cover up the acidity of processed tomatoes and low-quality ingredients. Fresh tomatoes naturally balance acidity with sweetness, but canned soup manufacturers use tomato paste and concentrates which are cheaper and more acidic. So they add sugar and high fructose corn syrup to make the soup more palatable. The result, a soup that feels comforting but spikes your blood sugar quickly and leaves you hungrier not long after eating it. Over time, this constant sugar load can contribute to weight gain, insulin resistance, and energy crashes. And it doesn't stop at sugar. Progresso's traditional tomato soup contains S-potassium chloride, citric acid, and various preservatives to maintain color, flavor, and shelf life. These additives don't exist in real home-cooked tomato soup. They exist to make sure the product lasts months, sometimes years, on a supermarket shelf. Then there's the sodium. A single serving carries around 700 to 800 milligrams of sodium, which again doubles if you finish the whole can. Combined with the sugar, it's a 1-2 punch for your body, raising your blood pressure while flooding your bloodstream with quick carbs. This combination causes bloating, fatigue, and inflammation, especially if eaten regularly. The texture of the soup may feel rich, but that's achieved using modified starches, not real cream or butter. The starches thicken the soup artificially while doing nothing for nutrition. The tomato flavor is often enhanced with natural and artificial flavorings, vague terms that companies use to hide lab-made chemicals designed to trick your taste buds into thinking you're eating something fresh. Another often overlooked issue is the S-lining of canned soups. Many of these cans are lined with materials that contain BPA, a chemical known to interfere with hormones and cause long-term health problems when consumed regularly. If a label says PA-free, other similar chemicals may still be used, and they're not necessarily safer. When the acidic tomato base reacts with these linings, trace chemicals can leach into your food. So while you might think you're enjoying a healthy, simple tomato soup, you're also taking in a mix of preservatives, chemicals, and sugars that have no place in something so basic. The sad truth is that this version of tomato soup has drifted far from its roots. Real tomato soup should be made from fresh or roasted tomatoes, herbs, and a touch of olive oil, ingredients that actually nourish your body. Instead, what you get in most canned options is a formula designed for shelf stability, not human health. It's a cheap imitation of the real thing, engineered to taste right, while offering none of the real benefits. This is how processed food quietly reshapes our perception of what real food should taste like. The sugar makes it addictive, the sodium makes it craveable, the preservatives make it easy to mass produce. People often reach for canned tomato soup thinking it's a safe, low-calorie option when they're dieting or feeling under the weather, but what they're really eating is a carefully balanced mix of artificial ingredients that comfort the tongue but do nothing for the body. The warmth you feel after eating it is only temporary. It's not the nourishment of natural food, just a chemical illusion of it. Over time, that illusion becomes dangerous, especially when such products replace real whole foods in the diet. A meal that was meant to heal and restore has become something that slowly harms through excess sugar, salt, and additives. Campbell's condensed cream of mushroom soup is one of those ingredients that hides in almost every pantry. It's used in casseroles, gravies, sauces, even as a quick base for home-cooked meals. For decades it's been marketed as a comforting, creamy staple, the kind of food that ties recipes together and reminds people of family dinners. But behind that nostalgic image lies a formula filled with additives, saturated fats, chemical flavor enhancers that make it one of the most misleading canned foods on the market. The label might say, made with real mushrooms, but the truth is that mushrooms make up only a small fraction of what's actually in the can. The majority is a blend of water, vegetable oil, modified starch, soy protein concentrate, and cream substitutes that give the soup its thick, velvety texture while offering very little real nutrition. One of the biggest problems with this soup is its fat content. A single half-cup serving, and again, most people eat the whole can. contains around 10 grams of fat, 3 to 4 grams of which are saturated. That means if you use it as part of a casserole or sauce, you're adding a significant amount of unhealthy fats without realizing it. Consistently consuming foods high in saturated fat raises LDL cholesterol, clogs arteries, increases the risk of heart disease. What makes it worse is that these fats aren't coming from natural cream or butter, but from low-quality vegetable oils like soybean or cottonseed oil that have been hydrogenated to improve shelf stability. These oils are highly processed and inflammatory, known to contribute to long-term metabolic issues. Then there's the sodium problem. Each serving of Campbell's cream of mushroom soup contains over 800 milligrams of sodium, which doubles if you finish the can or use it in cooking, something most recipes require. When combined with the sodium from other ingredients, easily pushes your daily intake far beyond healthy levels. High sodium not only leads to water retention and bloating but also gradually raises blood pressure and increases the risk of kidney problems. What makes it even more deceptive is the serving size listed on the can. It's intentionally small to make the numbers look better. Most people pour out the entire can to make a single meal or mix it into a recipe, unaware they're consuming twice the listed values. The flavor of this soup, which many people find rich and satisfying, comes not from real ingredients but from chemical additives. Monosodium glutamate's MSG is added to amplify umami flavor, creating that savory punch that keeps you coming back for more. MSG stimulates the taste buds, tricking your brain into thinking the food is fresher and more flavorful than it actually is. For some people, it can trigger headaches, dizziness, digestive discomfort. The soup also includes disodium inosinate and disodium gonylate, two flavor enhancers that work with MSG to create a powerful flavor profile, one designed to appeal to the senses but not necessarily to your health. When you combine these with the artificial cream base and salt, you get a concoction that tastes indulgent but has little to no real nutritional benefit. Another issue is the use of modified starches and gums that give the soup its smooth consistency. These ingredients are not inherently toxic, but they serve as cheap fillers that add bulk without adding nutrients. They're the reason the soup holds together so well when mixed with noodles or rice, but they also make it unnaturally thick and heavy. The result is a product that feels satisfying but leaves your body craving real nutrients soon after. The small bits of mushrooms that float in the mix are dehydrated and reconstituted during processing, stripped of most of their natural fiber and antioxidants. The earthy flavor you taste isn't coming from real mushrooms. It's built from artificial flavoring compounds that mimic the aroma and taste of the real thing. This kind of food creates a psychological illusion of comfort. You think you're making something homemade and hearty, but what you're really doing is assembling a meal built from processed chemicals. Over time, this shapes your palate, making real food taste bland in comparison. It's one of the reasons so many people find it hard to switch back to truly fresh cooking. Their taste buds have been trained by decades of processed soups and sauces. Cream of mushroom soup isn't just an unhealthy meal on its own, it's a foundation for unhealthy eating habits that sneak into everyday cooking. What should be a source of nourishment and warmth has been replaced by a blend of additives, unhealthy fats, flavor chemicals designed to imitate real food, while quietly undermining your health from the inside out. Chef Boyardee's line of canned soups and pasta-based meals is often marketed as fun, convenient, and family-friendly. The packaging is bright and cheerful, often showing smiling children and a quick meal that's ready in minutes. It's positioned as an easy solution for parents, something tasty that kids will eat without complaint and adults can enjoy for nostalgia. But behind the colorful label and comforting branding lies one of the most processed and nutritionally empty food products on supermarket shelves. What makes it particularly concerning is that it's often eaten by children who are far more vulnerable to the effects of excess sodium, sugar, artificial additives. Chef Boyardee soups are less about real ingredients and more about a carefully engineered formula designed to taste good, stay cheap, last years on a shelf without spoiling. When you open a can of Chef Boyardee's mini soup or pasta range, what you're really getting is a combination of refined white flour, sugar, salt, vegetable oils, and preservatives with traces of meat and tomato paste. The first thing you notice is the thick, sweet sauce that coats everything. That sweetness doesn't come from tomatoes, it's from added sugar and high fructose corn syrup. Each serving can contain several grams of sugar, which might not sound like much, but it adds up, especially when combined with the high levels of sodium. A single can easily contain over 1,000 milligrams of sodium, nearly half of what a healthy adult should consume in an entire day. The body doesn't process this combination of salt and sugar well. It spikes insulin levels, dehydrates you, and leaves you craving more food soon after. It's a classic processed food trap, taste engineered to keep you hooked while your body gets very little nutrition in return. The pasta inside these soups is made from highly refined flour that has been stripped of nearly all fiber and nutrients. That means you're getting empty carbohydrates that digest quickly and turn to sugar in the bloodstream, offering a brief sense of fullness followed by fatigue. Beef, or chicken, in these products is often mechanically separated meat mixed with soy protein concentrate and other extenders to make it cheaper to produce. The result isn't real meat texture or flavor, it's a rubbery processed imitation that provides minimal protein quality. The sauce, which looks rich and tomato-based, is mostly thickened water, starch, and flavoring. The small bits of vegetables shown on the label are almost non-existent inside the can, usually just tiny flecks of dehydrated carrots or peppers added for color rather than nutrition. What makes products like Chef Boyardee particularly dangerous is that they condition taste preferences early on. For children, eating these foods regularly rewires how they perceive flavor. They start associating the artificial sweetness and saltiness with what food should taste like, making them less likely to enjoy real vegetables, whole grains, or natural flavors later. It's a subtle but powerful form of conditioning that affects long-term eating habits. Adults who grew up eating these products often find themselves craving processed foods even when they know better, because the brain remembers the combination of sugar, salt, and fat as comforting. It's not just about convenience, it becomes a psychological attachment. From a health perspective, regular consumption of these canned meals can contribute to obesity, hypertension, and insulin resistance. The trans fats found in the partially hydrogenated oils used in older versions of these products, and still present in some markets, are linked to heart disease and inflammation. Even when the label says zero trans fat, there may still be trace amounts due to rounding rules in food labeling. The preservatives, like sodium benzoate and citric acid, extend shelf life but also create additional strain on the liver and kidneys when consumed frequently. These are not the kinds of ingredients that support growth, focus, or energy, yet they're often marketed to children and busy families as if they were wholesome meals. The marketing itself is perhaps the most deceptive part. The smiling cartoon chef on the can and the words, "made with real cheese," or "rich tomato sauce," give an illusion of quality, but the cheese is usually a processed powder blend, and the tomato sauce is mostly sweetened paste with little of the antioxidant benefits of real tomatoes. It's a food that appeals to nostalgia rather than nutrition. The convenience and flavor come at the expense of long-term health, and most people don't realize how harmful these ingredients can be when eaten regularly. The body doesn't need any of the additives that make these soups shelf-stable, it needs the fresh nutrients that have been stripped away in the process. Chef Boyardee's canned soups might fill a stomach quickly, but they leave the body starved for real nourishment, slowly building the kind of nutritional debt that leads to fatigue, cravings, and chronic health issues later in life. Great value chicken and rice soup, Walmart's budget-friendly option, might look like a simple and economical meal choice, but it's one of those products that quietly sacrifices quality and nutrition for the sake of affordability. It's marketed toward families, students, anyone trying to stretch their grocery budget. The label often highlights comforting words like hearty, flavorful, and made with real chicken, giving the impression of a balanced and nourishing soup. However, once you look past the price tag and dive into the ingredients, it becomes clear that what you're getting is mostly salt, water, starch disguised as a wholesome meal. It's a perfect example of how cheap, processed foods can create an illusion of value while providing almost nothing beneficial to your body. The first and most alarming issue is sodium. A single can of great value chicken and rice contains over 1,000 milligrams of sodium, sometimes closer to 200 depending on the batch. That's more than half of the recommended daily limit for an average adult in just one meal, and most people will pair it with crackers or bread, which adds even more salt. Excess sodium doesn't just make you thirsty. It gradually increases blood pressure, puts extra strain on your kidneys, leads to water retention. Over time, that daily salt overload silently contributes to heart disease and stroke risk. It's a slow process that doesn't feel harmful in the moment, but the long-term consequences are serious. Companies rely on high sodium levels because it enhances flavor cheaply, masking the lack of real ingredients or quality seasoning. Without the salt, this soup would taste flat and unappetizing because it's not made with fresh herbs, spices, slow-cooked broth. It's made with shortcuts designed to save manufacturing costs. The next problem lies in the so-called chicken. It's listed on the label, but it's rarely the kind of chicken you'd find in homemade soup. Instead of tender pieces of white meat, it's often reconstituted meat, shredded, mechanically separated, and bulked up with soy protein concentrate or starch. This gives the illusion of chunkiness without providing real protein or nutrients. When you open the can, you'll notice only a few small bits of chicken floating among mushy rice grains. The rice itself is overcooked and saturated in broth, stripped of texture and nutrients. It's not the warm, hearty bowl the packaging suggests, it's more like flavored water thickened with starch. The broth is another weak point. Rather than being made from slow, simmered bones or real vegetables, it's composed of flavor enhancers like monosodium glutamates (MSG), hydrolyzed vegetable protein, and artificial chicken flavor. These ingredients are designed to create a savory taste that tricks your senses into thinking you're eating something satisfying. MSG and similar additives can overstimulate taste receptors, giving an instant hit of umami flavor but leaving you craving more later. It's a strategy that food manufacturers have perfected. Foods that keep you coming back not because they nourish you, but because they hit your brain's pleasure centers just enough to make you want another bite. What's worse, great value chicken and rice soup contains minimal vitamins, fiber, or antioxidants. The vegetables are scarce, often reduced to tiny slivers of carrots or celery, barely visible in the mix. Since these are dehydrated and rehydrated during processing, they lose most of their natural nutrients and texture. The end result is a soup that fills your stomach but doesn't fuel your body. It's easy to see why so many people rely on these soups. They're cheap, convenient, and taste good for a few minutes, but the nutritional cost is hidden. Eating foods like this regularly leads to fatigue, bloating, nutrient deficiencies that you might not connect to your diet right away. The affordability of great value products makes them appealing, especially during tough financial times, but the hidden cost is paid in health. The human body isn't meant to run on chemically flavored salt water and refined starches. Over time, these processed ingredients wear down your metabolism and make it harder for your body to handle real food. The sad part is that a truly healthy chicken and rice soup doesn't require expensive ingredients. Just real chicken, a handful of vegetables, some herbs simmered slowly in broth. But mass production has replaced tradition. What's left is a product that saves $1 at the register, while quietly stealing vitality from your daily life.